Oh my god! And just rip that sucker right off.
I'm getting started on setting up my brake booster kit today. I'm not setting up the actual kit for vacuum, but what I need to do is be able to mount that thing on the firewall. Now, after I held this thing in my lap up to the backing plate, which I got right here, I could immediately tell that the bracket on this booster kit right here is not long enough to have this right next to it. Because the problem that happens is when I put it right here and I press it against this plate, the clutch master cylinder simply does not fit between the back of this plate and the booster, because it just doesn't fit between there and there. Now, my plan is here, since this is just some C-channel, it's got some intricate designs on it, but this is designed for a 78 Chevy, not an International. So, the goal is to make these things long enough to be used. They have like a bit of a taper on them, and I don't really need that. I could just be fine if they were long, flat pieces of C-channel. So I'm doing over here, this is the last little bit of metal from my frame extension that I have. And it is very thick C-channel. It's actually thicker than what's on the booster kit over there, which is a good thing. And I drew up these lines right here, you can tell. Now, my plan is I'm going to cut along this line here so that I can make this flap, this part of the C-channel smaller, and then follow that bend right over here to the other side, cut along this line right here, and then cut along this middle line, and then I'll have two pieces of 7-inch long C-channel that will be, what was it, I think 1 1/16 inches between here and here, 1 1/8 maybe. And then that will give me the distance, because then what I'll do is I'll take each of these pieces here, which will be C-channel, drill the holes on this side, drill the holes on this side, and then that will be the C-channel that goes here, that attaches here and here, and 3 holes that I will be drilling in this plate. Somebody had already cut this plate up years ago to retrofit a clutch master cylinder, because my truck's supposed to have a mechanical clutch, and a clutch master cylinder is just a better option. Somebody had done that before I owned it. You can tell they used a plasma cutter in there. I'll do my best to get mine to fit in there nice, and then whatever holes that they drilled that I don't need, like these ones I might not need, I'll weld them up nice, and I'll weld up down here nice so that this hole's gone, smooth it all out, paint it with POR, or just whatever paint, probably POR because it'll match what's under my hood. And then as soon as that's installed, it'll go back in there, and that whole system mounts here and here. That side is for the clutch master cylinder, and that side is for the brakes. Finally just got done cutting these things out just now. Obviously it took a bit. I guess it took about 40 minutes apparently. Not too bad though. I just have I don't really have high-tech stuff here, just a cut-off wheel and a grinder. So as you can see, I cut off those 2 leaves and I cleaned them up, because this will be material that I will be saving and possibly using somewhere else, or maybe my dad will use somewhere else, but that's good stuff. They charge you like 30 bucks for that bullshit, a Tractor Supply probably. And then this right here is again just more scrap metal. This is the last bit of frame that I won't be using. It still has a bend in it, Obviously, I cut the top off of it here. I just went all the way through because it was easier for me. I don't know if I'll ever need this piece, but it's an interesting one. It's got like a triangle on it. I cleaned up this real nice as well, so as you can tell, there's no burrs or anything on it. Getting to the pieces that I actually need, this is what I have right here. And these will get holes drilled on the top and bottoms, and they will mount kind of like this. They're hard to stand up now. They'll mount kind of like that with the C-channel facing out, and it will be screwed both to the bolted right to the firewall and to the back of the brake booster kit. So it would be something like, this is the bracket right here original, and instead of that, there would be this new bracket here. And I have a push rod extension that came in the kit, so I can make that thing like all the way touching the brick wall. I mean, I can make it like freaking 2 feet long if I really needed to. This is a 7-inch long bracket, and not sure how long the original bracket is, but as you can tell, it definitely creates that distance, and the distance between this new L that I just made or this new C channel I just made, and the difference between this plate will be just enough to sneak that clutch master cylinder right in that bigger hole. And then this will mount up to my firewall. It'll be way out there, but I mean, I got more than enough room in that engine bay there to have it just sitting straight off of this plate, straight off of that plate inside the engine bay. Because when I held it up just by hand a minute ago, it's going to be sitting like right here-ish, which is about like 7 away. By the time I have like the end of the kit, it'll be like right here. And I have more than enough space, open space. And we'll put the vacuum kit, the vacuum booster in here, the vacuum can right there on the fender, and it'll route right up into where it'll go. And then the clutch master cylinder goes on that one, and that'll attach to wherever that line is in there. And the clutch master cylinder comes down over there to change gears. That right there, the slave cylinder, is what it's attached to. So next step, I need to drill the holes for this thing, but I don't think I'm going to drill them today because I can't finalize anything right now. I mean, obviously, because I need to do a lot more stuff. Next thing I'm doing is setting up the brake booster kit, obviously. This is the original mount for the 78 Chevy kit, for the kit. So the problem I have with this is when I get the brake booster in here, I had it in my lap the other day. It's hard to show on camera because this doesn't bolt together yet. And I had it in my lap, and though the problem is when I mount this flush to those 4 bolts there, the issue is this diaphragm is too close to the clutch master cylinder. And I was like, well, that's a problem. They don't fit next to each other. So the other day I came out here and I cut these bad boys out of the last remaining material I had from the frame extension on my truck, because we extended it by 14 inches, but I accidentally ordered too much material. But it's coming in handy. I used a lot of it on fish plates, and I used some of it for this, obviously. This is the last bit I have of it. So what we're going to do now is have it like this, and since it'll be like this, it'll give me more than enough clearance away from the clutch master cylinder. Now, it's maybe a little bit bigger than I needed to, obviously, but this is just what I had laying around. It's twice as thick as the original material, and I mean, it was used on a frame, so I have a feeling it's fine for this. It's pretty long, but I got more than enough room in that engine bay over there, luckily. And then the other piece is right here. I just have it sitting on there right now. I'm gonna go ahead and drill the holes out on this, and those holes will match these holes. And I'm also gonna go ahead and drill out brand new holes on this, and I'll just figure out where I want them to be. There's not really any exact science to that. I'll just figure out, oh, it looks good there, there, and there. Measure them up, make sure they're all nice and even, and drill the holes there, and then it'll bolt right here, 3 times down there, and then same with this thing.
Well, we got a clutch master cylinder figured out for the 58 A120 Travelette. It would have had a mechanical clutch originally, but we have a 62 hydraulic clutch in the truck right now. This master cylinder is what was on the truck when it was butchered up with a Buick engine in it, and we researched this back to be a 57 Ford Thunderbird. And I didn't like it, first of all, because the guy cut a mounting ear off, and it was mounted in here crooked like so, because that ear interfered with the brake master cylinder. So we looked to find this, which has the same everything, same bore, same stroke. It will fit right in there as long as we put that bore on the same center as it used to be, and it'll go from like this, all crooked and one ear missing, to like this, 4 bolts, misses the original master cylinder. If we were to put that back in, it would fit, but we're going with this power brake setup. But we'll be able to put this right back in. It will have the same bore, and then this goes down to the line that goes to the clutch slave cylinder, which actually moves the throwout bearing and lets us shift gears. And then once this is in, we will close all these old holes that look plasma cut or torched. Here, 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 and it'll look real nice. And then the extended brackets that will go on here to hold the booster, because these are not long enough. These were supposed to be like this, and by the time those are there and this is down, it's covering up the clutch master cylinder. So we are fashioning these, which is the same material we use to extend the frame. And we will put this right here. We'll notch so that we'll be able to replace this anytime we want. This, by the way, is a part number for a 57 or 8 Ford F350 truck. And then once we make notches on this C-channel, we'll be able to take this on or off, and then this plus this will not interfere with that any longer. It'll just be back there nice and happy, and we have everything we need figured out in order to make this adapt to this, which is our international brake pivot arm that comes off of the back of the brake pedal. And when you press the brake, it does its best to stay horizontal through its motion, because it pivots while the brake pedal's back here moving up and down. It's still moving horizontally. And we're going to take this coupling off of this rod that came in our kit, because we don't like this one. We're going to use the factory one. It just slides through. It's not a bolt. It slides through and it takes a cotter pin, so it's always free to move. And we're going to take this off. We're going to cut this coupling. We're going to cut a nub of this, which is like about a 5/16 rod. I'm going to put this over this to the point where it gets all the way down here. Weld it solid here. Leave a half a nub here. Then we will have a threaded portion of this, which is welded solid here and in here like a pin, keeping center. And then that will allow us to use this to get to our regular linkage. This is all fine thread, 3/8 by 24. And then we'll be pretending that's gone, because this is now on there now. And this is like so. And that gives us 3 inches back to this eye. And it just so happens that the brake pedal that's currently in the truck at full out to full in moves 1 5/8 inches. And that is exactly how far this piston moves on this power brake setup, 1 5/8". So when this goes from not touching the brake to slamming the brakes, it's tough. That moves 1 5/8". That's the exact same movement that we have right now. This is a dust cover. We'll extend the dust cover with a piece of PVC back here inside the C-channel so that this piston, which obviously has oil on it right now, doesn't get all dirty. There's also cloths in here that keep everything greased and swabbed. So we'll extend that dust boot. International pedal, driving 78 Chevy-ish 3/4 ton power brakes.
So I gotta drill out the holes in this C channel right here, and this is going to be what we're using for the brake booster kit. This is the brake booster side that I'm going to be drilling out. There's 2 on top, and I got to figure out the bottom later. I'm going to be able to mount this thing right now onto the booster kit, and then I can take the whole booster kit and set it on that plate, and then draw the lines for the bottom more accurately so that I can get a good measure on them. Because I'm not exactly sure the distance, it'd just be easier. It may just be easier to work if it was on the plate. I'm gonna get these drilled now. I'm gonna drill them 3/8. The studs on there are 1/4, and I've got 5/16 hardware. Got the new brackets installed on the diaphragm, and this is where they will mount. I got them tightened down each side here. I'm gonna have to take this off and paint it gold, and first primer then gold when I get a chance. But now I'm gonna go ahead and drill the holes down here, and I just kind of gotta guess where they're gonna go because there is no exact science to this, obviously, in terms of where the holes go. I just need to make sure that they're not in a spot where there's old holes already, and that I have enough material to actually drill into, and that it's not too close to that center there. I'm just gonna do my best to get this thing good. I'm not concerned about the gap here, because what I'm going to do is just stack a whole bunch of washers in there on the threads, and I'm going to have a thread that comes up through the back, and when this plate goes on, I'll stack a bunch of washers here so that it is a flat surface at this angle all the way down, and then tighten it down right here with another washer nut and lock nut, obviously. But it's looking pretty good. I got to figure out where I'm going to drill, and then I got to drill obviously the brackets, and I got to drill that plate and go from there. I also marked this spot right here. This is where the clutch master cylinder sits. Now, I had initially thought about making a spacer on the right side there, but on the left side instead, I'm just going to cut that rectangle out of the bracket. I'll have one bolt there. I'm going to try to get 2 bolts up there, and then that will just be cut out. And then this clutch master cylinder, I don't want to knock stuff over, it's a balancing act here. This clutch master cylinder will fit in there just like that. So when the whole thing's together, it'll look more or less like this. And now that clutch master cylinder has way more than enough room to ride in there. lucky to have that stuff. It's twice as thick as the original brackets that were for the kit, and I just couldn't use these at all. Because obviously you can tell, having this side by side here, there's no way possible this could have ever given me enough space here. I mean, it was clearly riding next to it. I'm very happy right now though, very excited. Okay, so I got the holes for these cut out, and they're not symmetrical. I didn't design them to be symmetrical. I designed them to fit on the plate in normal spots. Because unfortunately, that plate has already been drilled and stuff before, and aside from that, it also has a lot of bends and stuff in it, and just how it worked out, they got to be different. I still need to cut. On this one, I need to cut this rectangle out here I drew in Sharpie. You can kind of see it. I got to cut that out so that the Clutchmaster cylinder will just slide in here. These will both mount, and this will mount. It'll be nice. Finally just got this whole thing put together, and oh my god, is it awesome. Been waiting to see this. This is totally all my plans coming in fruition here. I got more to do still. I have to come back, weld up those holes there on the top, that little those little pinholes. The factory manual clutch hole I have to weld up right there. I got to weld up on the bottom here, which is from the previous owner who had cut that out. And then I also need to cut out a bit of the C-channel right here so that that can sit flush. I'm not going to paint this gold. I'm going to primer it, and then I'm going to paint it the same very pretty blue color that the engine is. You can tell kind of right there. It's easier to see in daylight. That blue right there is what I'm going to paint it, so it'll be really pretty in there. I cut out the hole right here so that the Clutchmaster cylinder can fit next to it really nicely. Originally I was planning on cutting out another piece and boosting the whole thing up, but instead I decided to actually cut the C-channel here. I just did that a few minutes ago. I didn't even bother recording it. But it's pretty nice. I tried to round it, but it's hard to do that with a cutoff wheel, so I just went through. I mean, there's no way this thing is ever going to bend or anything. It would take an extremely large amount of force to bend this thing. It's just not going to happen. There's no way that my foot would ever put enough force to straight up bend this C-channel. And besides that, this piece of C-channel right here gets mounted right next to it, just like this. And then they get mounted up to a brake booster kit. There's no way this is gonna get ruined. But I'm super excited about this. I need to remove this now. I got everything just finger tight. I'm gonna remove all this, and then I need to cut out a couple little pieces of metal so I can weld up this hole right here. I'm gonna just weld that up. And then over here I have to weld this hole, this one, and then I'm going to make another patch panel right here and weld this up so it'll be flush. That little bit is actually from the factory for the mechanical clutch, but I'm not going to be needing that. Well, with a little bit of help from CAD, cardboard aided design, I just traced out this piece right here. and I traced out this piece right here, and I put them onto the sheet metal. I'm gonna go ahead and take the grinder, cut these pieces out, and then clean some of the paint off them, and I will go ahead and weld these up in here. As soon as that's welded in, I have various holes in here that are not needed anymore. That one's not needed, that one's not needed, that one's going away, this one's going away, that's going away, that's going away. And other than that, the other ones I'm leaving these because these are factory welded in nuts. And in this spot and in this spot, I'm gonna put them back in. This one's gonna get covered up by the plate, but I'm gonna put nuts back in these just so that there's not a hole there. I mean, I'm gonna put bolts back in there just so that there's not a hole there. Because the thing is I am putting this whole brake booster kit in here, obviously. But at the end of the day, if I really, really, really wanted to, for some reason, I could downgrade to regular brakes. Obviously, I'm kind of screwing myself in terms of converting back to mechanical clutch, but I just won't do that. And I would have to think, considering where this hole is and this hole is and this hole is, it's entirely possible they might fit next to each other if I had one in here, but probably not. I mean, they're really close to each other. I do have a spare plate in my Golden Jubilee, and I actually have a complete mechanical setup in the Golden, but I chose to do this because it's more reliable to have a hydraulic clutch, and it's obviously vastly more safe to have a brake booster. I have a good plate and a mechanical setup in the Golden, but I decided against it, especially considering the engine that's in my truck right now came out of a 1962, and it came with the transmission and the clutch already put together, and there's already a slave cylinder on the clutch right now. So converting that to a manual clutch, I don't even know how I'd tackle that. And the Golden is also a 3-speed, so I don't even know if there's a difference there. I haven't really gotten too far into that system. Finished cutting out these pieces just now. This is for the bottom, and this is for the top, and they will just fit right in here. Kind of tell, that will just go right on the top there, and this one here will go right in on the bottom, and they'll just fit right into this gap. It's hard to see because it's dark out right now, but they'll fit right in this gap right here and fill up that hole. So that'll be pretty nice. It'll look really good when it's done. The only reason I'm doing that is because otherwise there'd be a hole there, and I'm not exactly willing to let that slide. I'm gonna go ahead and bust out the welder, weld this stuff in, and then grind it down, and then I'm gonna call it a night after that. I got work in the morning. I mean, actually, I'll get maybe a coat of primer if it cools down. I can get a coat of primer on there. I'm gonna weld this, grind it down, put on primer. The primer's dry, maybe I'll throw a quick thing of blue on there. Just finished welding this. Got those two little things I cut out, patch panels. I welded up all the holes that I will not be needing. Got it on both sides. Now I got to grind everything down. I think I'm going to leave them on the inside because they won't be in conflict with anything. They'll just be sitting there hidden forever unless somebody pulls off this plate, and they'll be covered in paint and everything. just for, you know, strength or whatever. I don't need to grind them off. I don't care. But on the front here, I'm going to grind these off because I do want this to look nice and smooth. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm pretty much done out here for the night. I packed everything up and I painted both sides of this stuff with primer. I'm gonna come at it real quick with the blue paint. This is actually left over from when I painted my engine a few years ago. So I got this can's all the way full. This one's got a little bit in it, and I'm just gonna spray that on there, and I'll show you when I'm done with that. I got one side covered in blue now, and I'm gonna call it a night. It's pretty late out here. I've been out here since I got home from class. Looks really pretty. I laid it on thick in a couple spots because I left some Sharpie and it was still showing through. You can kind of still see the Sharpie. I'll have to paint it once or more again to get rid of that Sharpie on there. I did put primer too, but it kept throwing through the primer. Lesson learned on that: don't paint over Sharpie with lighter colored paints. And then tomorrow I'll flip this over, paint the other side quick before work. Then I'm gonna go ahead and actually paint the clutch master cylinder right here. I'm just gonna tape off what I need to, and then I'll just paint it black real quick so that it kind of matches and it doesn't end up looking rust brown, because I mean it'll end up looking rust brown eventually, obviously, just from being in my truck. And then all I got to do now, mount this on there, mount those on there, mount the brake booster on there, and obviously that one little strip of black metal, I don't know where it is. Then I'll take all that in one piece. I gotta still do the push rod for the brake pedal. As soon as the push rod's done, this stuff is done being painted and assembled, and the clutch master is set up and has fluid in it. I'm gonna go ahead and start cutting off this stuff right here. On the right here you have the original push rod for the 1958 International Harvester. I lost the pin for it. I gotta find it. It's probably in the cabinet. And then on the left here, now on the bottom, you have a push rod for a 1978 Chevy K23 quarter-ton brake booster kit. Now, obviously, there's some problems here. This hole, first of all, way too big. This hole is different, and it goes on the outside. This one would go in the center, so I'd have to, like, cut it and whatever, and I'm not going to do that. And then the hole's still too big. And then besides that, these threads here are not the same size as these threads. And unfortunately, they don't make a connector coupling so that I can actually put those together. They don't make one of these where it's different on each side for specifically what I would need. They do have them in different sizes, but specifically for my application, they don't have the size I would actually need. So what I'm going to go ahead and do here is cut on that line right there on this piece, and on this one, this is the line of where it stops in here. But I'm going to draw another line after I get this cut off, and that'll be down around here-ish, maybe around that dot. So I'll leave just a little bit in there. I'll clean this thing up, and then I'll take this here and slide it over it, and then this will meet all the way over here, and like I said, I'm going to leave a little bit in there, and then I'm going to weld it right here. So then the new push rod will have that on there on this setup, and then it will be able to screw in to this piece of threaded rod here. So imagine this black piece would be on there, and it would look something like that, and it would screw together. And then this push rod goes to the booster kit, I might have to shave this down a little and shave the booster kit down a little because I need just how it's working out right now. But it's gonna work like this either way. This is obviously welded together right now, so I'm not too concerned about it. And it also looks like there is stuff inside of here as well, because like I said, I can't push it all the way in there. So that's why I'm cutting at that line. I mean, it'll be a little bit shorter, but I need these threads in here. They're not a normal thread size you can get over the counter as well. And I still need this connector piece in the system, so I can't ruin this. At the end of the day, I'm not going to use this piece. It's just like spare parts. So I'm just going to cut it. I really don't care. I will literally never need this. I hate ruining things that are brand new, but I simply don't need this piece. I only need the threads, and for my application, that's what we're doing. Finished cutting up this stuff right here. I got the thing off the eye, and I got this piece off of the original International Harvester push rod. The cool thing about this is I had a feeling there was actually material inside of here, and there was. There's like a little square piece that they clearly had in there so it wouldn't want to move around in there. That's kind of neat, so it wouldn't like spin off. Interesting idea. I had a very similar one, except mine's round, unfortunately. Not much else I can do about that. I just cut it off best I could. I mean, it doesn't need to be like perfect or anything in there. And then I just cleaned it up with a file to get like the grime and paint off of here. And then this piece right here is what I cut off. This right here is what I cut off. And you can tell that I had to do my best to smooth it out because it's not perfectly straight. When I weld it on, I'll make sure that I get it at a perfect 90-degree angle though, and I got some marred up spots from the vise. Doesn't matter though. I'm gonna paint this as well, and then that will sit right here, and I'll just get it so that it's nice and even, so it looks nice and it's not like crooked. I dropped it. Just so that it's I'll make it so it's nice, so it's not like crooked like this or something. I'll make sure that it looks really pretty. Probably have it about like that. Just make sure that it's straight out. And this one did have some kind of a bend in it, but the thing is I don't really need to worry about that bend because the Clutchmaster, I mean the brake, I don't need to worry about that bend because the brake booster kit's so far away and it's set up to have a straight rod anyway. There's no need for a bend. A factory brake master cylinder would just sit right there. So I'm sure that in that case, this bend right here was important, but I don't need it anymore. Finished welding this thing now. As you can tell, I cut this off. I slid it right over like I said I would. My welds aren't always perfect, but they are strong, and I'm not concerned about this ever failing on me. There's no way. It's kind of hot still. And then the pin slides through right there. I actually found the pin. I had lost it earlier and ran around like a freak, desperately trying to find it. And this will be the top, since this is ugly on the bottom. And then this pin goes right through here. It's hot. This pin goes right through here. And then this is what attaches to the back side of the brake pedal. This will thread into it right here. And then this rod will attach to the brake booster kit. This is actually pretty close to what the kit gave me. I mean, this thing was mounted on that piece really similarly. The only difference is inside there was a square and it wasn't round. But aside from that, this is almost no different from the kit, aside from the fact that I cut it off and put it onto mine. But clearly the kit assumed that a weld would be strong enough for this, so I am also going to assume that. I can't imagine this weld ever failing. I don't know how that would even be remotely possible for it to fail. So I'm not too concerned. All this literally does is push and pull, and that's not going to break this weld. And even if it does, it's not going to fall out of here because this will be in there pushing against it. If anything, like, it could come off this way, but it's just not, it's not it's not feasible, and obviously you can tell my penetration is insane. I think I welded a little bit little too hot on here, but it's a good thing it penetrated it like crazy. I'm not too concerned. It looks good though, good enough for my needs. I'm not a professional, just a hobby dude. This will attach brake booster kit, so I'm gonna paint this. So all I need to do now is go ahead and put everything together. As soon as everything's put together, I can install it. I just got to put this thing on there quick. I'm waiting for paint to dry though. That's all I'm waiting on is paint. I can put everything in. The clutch master will need the hydraulic line, which I still have to buy. I haven't bought that yet. Things are going good though. Like, I literally just have to install everything. I have everything I need. And once this is all on, it's moving. I'm getting more and more and more excited by the day. I mean, I got this truck when I was 14, and I haven't seen it move, and it hasn't moved since 1986. So I'm really excited. Okay, getting so close now. I got everything here painted. This is all done right now. This is how it's going to be. Primer and several coats of the same blue color that is my engine. And then you come over here and I have this thing cut, welded, put back together, primered and painted, and the pin has also been primered and painted just because why not? And I also primer and painted the clutch master cylinder. Didn't really need to do that. The only reason I did that is to prevent against rust brown, because it will be that color eventually. Unfortunately, I'm not even going to bother trying to paint the brake booster kit one, because it's got all that gold and everything on it, and I'm not going to go take that all apart. So that one will end up looking rust brown. But other than that, it's pretty other than that. So it's going to look pretty nice. Got that stuff there, got that stuff there. The only other thing, as soon as everything's done drying, is to put it in the truck. Got everything put together, finally. The brake booster kit on there, clutch master cylinders on there. I gotta take this whole thing and install it. I don't know if I said this already, but this piece here will mount. That's from my truck as well. This is a factory part. This actually mounts right here-ish, and then it follows the body line of the firewall. It bends right around a bend in the firewall there. That's just extra support. And then this whole kit's done though. I'm very excited. This whole kit's put together. The original IH mounting plate right there, leftover material from my frame extension, clutch master cylinder, brake booster kit, custom push rod. I had to cut this, weld it back together. I also had to cut some of the threads off of here so that I could make it fit. There's actually two rods threaded into each other, and to make it fit on my truck I had to cut them. I also put in I cut a piece of PVC pipe and put it in here. This right here is just a little bit of metal, and it's held in there with some self-tapping screws, and I'm trying to see it. It is held in there with self-tapping screws, and the bolt that holds on the whole piece is actually one of the original IH bolts. So it's ended up working out. They didn't weld those because it still needed to do a little bit of work. The other IH bolt down here though, here's the threads for it. This one isn't doing anything. This one here is holding on a piece of metal that holds that PVC in there. Aside from those two self-tapping screws, this actually kind of closes in on it a little bit and helps it stay from moving side to side. And it also clamps down on this. The reason why I put this PVC in here is because this is a dust boot, and there's like another plastic washer, and then there's like a sponge looking thing, and that goes inside of this. And I needed that to be pressed against something, because if I left it out in open space it would fall off and get full of gunk, and we can't have that. This piece of PVC here will keep this pressed and nice and in good order, and I just tightened everything down until I couldn't move them anymore. So very excited. This thing will mount pretty easily. I got a couple more things to do inside the truck, and I had to sign it. And right there and there as well. Got all this stuff welded in. I'm leaving the welds in on the inside just for extra strength, and they are not in conflict with anything, so it doesn't matter. I'm very excited. This is what I've been working towards. This is over $400 worth of stuff and like a week's worth of work and countless hours of research sitting on the table right here, right now. And as far as I know, I'm one of the only people who've done this conversion, at least in this manner, and especially in any of the 17. I know none of the 17 have them brake booster. I'm sure that there's other A or B series, but this specifically was all me. This is all my own engineering here. Hopefully this video will end up helping somebody out someday, or I could help someone if they want to convert an A120 B or A series truck, a two-door Travelette, because this kit, I mean, it would work for any of them. I'm not mass producing it or anything, but I could definitely tell you what needs to be done and how to do it. And I think that that's the important part. It's a lot of work involved, and there's quite a bit of money here, but to be able to stop like a brand new car, or at least a modern van, will probably be more like it. I mean, that's I think that's worth every penny. I'm putting $900 worth of brake parts in here between the booster kit and the pump and the vacuum can. There's going to be a lot in here. The only reason I needed to do this, actually, the only reason why I had to get the booster kit in here is because we only need the clutch master to make this thing move. Because if I have a clutch, I can actually shift gears and go into neutral and stuff, instead of sketchily driving with just first gear and not being able to do anything else. But I needed to have the brake booster kit in to know where that goes, so I didn't mess this up later. And I had to do it anyway, eventually, but I couldn't be more happy. And it's very pretty and blue. I had to cut the top of this off because it had an eye that it was there originally. Now that eye was supposed to drive the mechanical clutch, which would ride on the top here and come straight down all the way down there, and there'd be something that pivots on. It would go over there to the transmission. Since I'm putting on a hydraulic clutch, well, this thing was supposed to pass through the top part in the plate, right, like that, and it would pass clean through there, and that was the original hole. But since I'm putting on a hydraulic clutch, that would be in conflict only because I welded that hole in the plate. Now, the person who did the conversion had put this on here. We think this is just like an eye bolt that they shaved the threads off of, and they just used like whatever to put it in. And it's a little bit sloppy, but I really don't care. I really can't see too much of a problem with this. So I'm going to use it. I am going to clean this up with a file, and then I'm going to put a lot of lubrication with red grease in here. I'm going to lube up that hole with red grease, and then I'm going to be able to put this thing on here coming really soon. The only thing that kind of sucks is now there's two holes in this pipe that could fill up with dirt over time. I really can't see that happening. This will be covered by a plate, so, and I just sprayed a bit of paint on there just now because it was bare metal. But that right there used to go through this plate right here that I welded in this patch, and it would just slide through there originally. This down here has been cut by, this was cut by a previous owner. This was all cut by a previous owner because they had done a conversion to a hydraulic clutch as well. And some of these holes that I welded up on here were also by him. Like this one there was done by him, but I ended up reusing that hole because he just used a probably a torch, probably not a plasma cutter. I don't really think they were common back then. So I'm gonna grease all this up, and then I am going to be mounting this kit as soon as it's done being greased. All right, everything's put together now, and I got everything tightened on here. This is the clutch master cylinder, this is the brake booster kit, these are my custom brackets. All the holes are drilled, everything's perfect on here. The push rod's done. I filled the boot here. It's heavy. I filled up this boot with grease. I greased up the push rod there and the hole that the pin for the brake booster push rod goes in. And I just got one quick squirt of paint on that bare metal there. I'm gonna go ahead and get this thing in here now. Just gonna do my best. There's three holes on this side, and then on that side there's 5 holes, 4 on the side, 1 on the bottom, and those share a spot with this. So I gotta start with the right side so that I can get this thing kind of held in there. But most importantly, I need to start by getting the push rod in this boot here. I got it propped up in the cab with a soccer ball right now, so the pedals are they're all the way up.
Yeah.
Take that cap right off. I'll do the clutch so you can catch it, okay?
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah. I hear air.
Didn't blow the cap off.
Not on the clutch.
Alright, I'm gonna do it on the brake now. Ready?
Yeah.
Here.
I can see it flapping on the tape.
It's springing back at me. That's nice. And then this is clutch.
Yeah, I hear air.
The clutch one isn't really springing back on me very well.
No, there's no pressure on it.
The brake one is though. Look. The brake one springs back nice, and this is the clutch. It doesn't really do it.
Yeah, the brake one was always pretty pressurized.
Yeah. It's pretty easy to do with your foot now. But check how ridiculous it's gonna be driving. It's gonna be like,
You still gotta put the counter pin in.
oh, it's gonna be like this though, like brake. Ah! Ah! It's so high, like
You can always make the brake pedal higher to make it less gap. The gas pedal by extending the rod.
what?
You can make the gas pedal closer by making the rod longer, which would bridge the gap.
Yeah, I guess it would make it like here instead of here, and then I could just move my seat back because then my foot would be here all the time.
Yeah.
But I'd still be way up high.
And then you're farther from your shifter and stuff, though.
Yeah, I mean, I guess whatever, I'll deal with it. Honestly, like, if this was me driving right now, yada yada yada, and I had to brake, it's really not that bad.
First time this has had a brake pedal and a gas pedal that were standing tall in probably 30 years.
Yeah, 86, probably. That's when they ripped all that stuff out of here, was in 86. And that's the last time these pedals would have functioned at all. Because, I mean, I don't think they functioned at all with what was in here when we got it. I don't remember them ever being up.
No, they were. Of course, you cut all the lines out and everything, but they were
I don't
dry.
think these pedals were up, though, when we got it. I think that it was just stupid already. I mean, this might be the first time these pedals have been up since 86.
Well, checking the oil that way is a loser. It's gonna have to be checked over here.
What?
Checking the oil under the master is a loser. You gotta bring it up on the other side.
Yeah, that's fine. Let me see how bad it is. So it gets in the way of.
You can't pull it out all the way unless you like bending things.
Oh yeah, so you'd have to do it like...
Yeah.
That's not entirely horrible. And then I just have to put it back. You gotta bring it like sideways here. Sure would have been better if it was over here, like the factory intended for A series.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be over here somewhere. But...
It's not that bad though.
No, it's not bad. I just do this and then...
I mean, like ultimately, it's not.
It's not perfect, but you know what? None of this is perfect. Well, we finally got this installed. That's been an ordeal, many, many, many months in the making. Clutch Master installed, brake booster kit installed. The Clutch Master is from a 57 Ford F350. The brake booster is a brake booster kit for a 78 Chevy K20. The reason why I picked this kit is because that is what my axles are from. So it's designed for the axles I have. I had to make these custom brackets for it to fit in here. It's definitely very heavy, and it was obviously a little bit of an ordeal to tighten down in here. Hopefully, if anybody ever has to do this conversion, this helps them. This should work for any A or B series, especially if you do the axle swap. I'll probably write up a document on how I did this, and you guys can read that if you didn't get it all in the video. Custom push rod, we had to put PVC in there. We had to put some self-tapping screws in that PVC to keep it in. We had to shorten the push rod that came with the kit because it was too long and there wasn't enough, because it was in two pieces. There wasn't enough room to just have the one. We still needed two. This is what happens when I push down the brake pedal. As you can tell, it's really nice. I've got wires in my face. As you can tell, it's really, really nice. My welds won't ever fail. I have no reason to believe they will ever fail. It's nice and straight. I can definitely hit the floor with it. I can get enough space in here. See? It goes all the way to the floor. And this is not hooked up to anything right now. And then when I hit the Clutch Master, this is what that looks like right here. And that's all the way up inside of a boot. And this part of this was not my design. I don't know how this would have looked on here from the factory. I have it on my parts truck, but I haven't looked up in there because somebody had put this, we think it's an eye bolt that somebody like took the threads off of, and then they drilled through or something and put this on here. Somebody else had actually retrofitted this truck. Somebody else had actually retrofitted this truck before me to hydraulic. I just improved on their idea and got a better part and made it more efficient, because this vehicle used to have a 401 Buick nail head in here. And so that's why they switched to a hydraulic clutch instead of the factory mechanical clutch. And then as for the brakes, obviously I'm the person converting it to power brakes.